The postseason just keeps getting better. It's the night of October 10th, 2024. Thanks for dropping by the Late Night Baseball Show and joining the postseason party. We are here every week hanging out, talking baseball, and by we, of course, I mean myself and my co-host and Red Sox optimist, Parker. Dude, how are you doing this Thursday evening?
Red Sox optimist. I like that. Well, I'm enjoying some really good postseason baseball. I've been watching not as much as I'd like to, but quite a sufficient amount of postseason ball up to this point, and it's been electric. Like, we've had some really good series. As of the time of recording, the Yankees are playing the Royals, and the Yankees are up 3-1 at the end of the seventh inning. So the Royals better get it together, otherwise they're facing elimination. And then the Guardians went ahead and tied the series 2-2 and forced Game 5. So we got a couple Game 5s coming up in the ALDS and the A and NLDSs, and I don't know. I'm just excited, man. I'm ready to talk about baseball.
Heck yeah, that's what we're here to do. I keep telling people the postseason is nothing I thought it would be, yet everything I wanted. And we're going to talk about all of that today. Yep. If that makes any sense, we'll talk about all of it here today. But before we do that, Parker, let's do what we usually do. Let's go first to home and talk about four of the biggest stories in baseball this week. And, of course, we start at first base. To the folks who may be listening that are affected by not only Hurricane Milton the last couple days, but Hurricane Helene, our hearts are with you. That is just a terrible situation to be in. Millions of people affected. And certainly this is not the most important part of this story, but it certainly applies to what we do here. Tropicana Field was destroyed by the hurricane, and the roof completely gone. I mean, Parker, this was insane. I mean, literally the whole roof of Tropicana Field, home of the Rays, is gone.
Yeah, so, again, not to make light of the situation or anything, but my brother sent me a text earlier today and goes, dude, the Rays stadium has no roof now. And I did not connect the dots that he was talking about Hurricane Milton. So I was like, that's dumb. Now they're going to get rain delays at every single game. Like, it rains so often in Tampa. And then I Googled and I saw what was going on. So, yeah, no, I was very surprised. If you've seen the pictures are incredible. Like, in the worst possible way. The place got shredded. And the worst part it was being used as a base for first responders during Hurricane Milton. So, yeah, it's super unfortunate. And, I mean, if there is a silver lining, if there is a good way to look at it, maybe this forces some renovations of, I think, now that the Coliseum's gone, universally the least liked field in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the bad rap that Tropicana Field gets. I personally went to a game there, and I liked my experience, but I'm going to be honest with you, it felt like watching a game in a high school gymnasium is really what it felt like. Yeah. And you're right, it makes you wonder what happens or what's next for the Rays. A lot of the discussion now is, are we going to be able to clean this up by opening day next season? There's extensive damage, and what people don't think about with Tropicana Field is, because it had a roof, there's no drainage system. So all the water that went into the ballpark, now there's extensive water damage too. And so,
yeah, I didn't even think about that. Oh,
yeah,
man.
so what happens to that team in 2025? What I can tell you is they're not even supposed to move or have a new stadium over there, which they've been planning to do. They're not even going to have that till the 2028 season. So they still have some time. So who knows what's going to happen there in Tropicana?
Yeah, I mean, they could end up playing in minor league parks or even a college park if it doesn't get fixed in time. But, I mean, the crews and first responders and everybody down there, once all of the essential activities have taken place, I'm sure that they can get people in there and pay for it and get everything fixed up, hopefully in time for some good baseball. The Braves fans really, for all the stuff they put up with, they deserve to at least have a ballpark to go watch their team play in. So I really hope that they get it figured out down there.
Absolutely. We're going to second base here, and we're going up to the Twin Cities. The Twins are going through a little bit of a transition right now. First and foremost, their GM, Thad Levine, decided to resign last week. And then we heard today that the Pollitt family, the owners of the Twins, are actually exploring selling the Twins franchise. So there's a lot going on with the Twins right now, and I don't know what to make of it, Parker. I know they've sniffed the postseason recently after their first appearance in some time. They cut the payroll by $30 million, mainly because of the film rights issues that they've had. The Twins were part of that, so we're in a transition period for this franchise right now. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we're in for a transition period, at least as it pertains to the TV rights issue, especially. Like, there's 10 teams that if Diamond Sports goes bankrupt this offseason, we could see major implications for what it means for baseball as a whole. So we'll see how that pans out. But as far as the Twins go, it's interesting to see this type of thing come from. How do you describe the Twins? Perennial door knockers.
Mm-hmm.
Always kind of yeah, they're not going to win the pennant. They may not make the ALCS, but division series, it's probably in the cards for them, unless they're playing the Yankees. The Twins genuinely do have one of the nicer ballparks in baseball. They have one of the better fan bases in baseball. I mean, people up there in Minneapolis love their Vikings, and they love their Twins, man, and the Wild, of course. But I mean, obviously, say a very similar sentiment to the Tropicana Field thing. Like, I hope this gets figured out and quickly. And then, I mean, maybe the only positive thing I could say about the whole situation going on with the Anaheim Angels, but once Art decided not to sell, he did resume duties as owner as normal, to his standards. So hopefully this is a similar situation. If the Pollard family does decide to stick around and resume day-to-day ownership, I could see this almost working in their favor in terms of negotiating a new deal, depending on people who are better at negotiating than me. Hopefully that works out that way.
Yeah, well, baseball is better when we have competitive teams in really all 30 teams are competitive, and so I'd like to see them, hang tight, put more money into that team, and I saying that as White Sox fans is a little weird, but hey, I like to see competitive baseball, as I know you do as well.
Yeah, I mean, baseball, from my perspective, think about how long the Orioles were just cellar dwellers in the AL East. The AL East is super fun this year, and a lot of that is because every single team had a non-0% chance at a playoff berth at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. Let's slide into third and talk about what I think is one of the more interesting stories of baseball right now, and that is the Cincinnati Reds have named two-time World Series winner, three-time pennant winner, and three-time manager of the year, Terry Francona, as their new manager. Parker, I love Terry. I know you have a special place in your heart for Terry, and this was just really exciting news.
Yeah, man, Tito's awesome. He's and every player that plays for him says the same thing. Fun fact about him, he goes through this is not a joke, he goes through 40 pieces of double bubble a game. He is a character. He cares deeply about his players. He's had some health issues in the past that it's good to see that, I don't know the man personally, but hopefully he's feeling better if he's taking a job as the manager of the Reds. And he's staying in the same state that he was just in for the past few years with Cleveland. So, and Terry Francona is not a guy who signs on to be a manager and leaves after 2 seasons. I have a feeling we're going to see close to a decade of Terry Francona leading those Reds, and it's so exciting to say that when they've got such a promising up-and-coming young core of players on that team. So props to the Reds fans. Happy for Reds fans. Happy for Tito. Happy for everybody.
100%. And we will end first to home at home plate, and we're going to talk about here something that I think surprised us both, Parker, and I know we'll get into it even more detail here soon, but the Mets are bringing all the vibes. They're bringing all the vibes to the NLCS. They swept the floor with the Phillies, who you were raving about last week.
I know.
What is going through your brain with these Mets right now?
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm a Mets fan. This is awesome. You said it yourself. They brought every single bit of vibes they could bring to this series. And to watch what is going on at the plate for them has been the most interesting thing to me. Specifically 2 guys. First of all, Pete Alonso, who at 2 different times from the end of the season to now has had super clutch home runs to deliver for them in big moments. But the guy that I really want to talk about is Francisco Lindor. And if we take a second and just look at Francisco Lindor throughout the entirety of this NLDS, let me read you just the exit velocities from his batted ball data. The first pitch he saw in this NLDS, he hit 103 miles an hour off the bat, and it was luckily for the Phillies fielded by Bryce Harper at first base for a lineout. After that, 32 miles an hour, but then he gets hot. 81 miles an hour, 105, 105, 100, 87, 79, 106, 98, 109,
Wow.
104. He is tearing the cover off of the baseball. That 109 mile an hour hit, that was the home run. That was the home run that he hit to really do it for the Royals. I almost said Royals, for this Mets team. And he's leading in every possible way. The guy had an 840 OPS throughout the season, and he's just continued to swing it in the postseason. It is so fun to see.
It is incredibly fun to see. I mean, the Mets poured so much money into this guy for good reason, right? I mean, he is just a premier player, and honestly, in the last few years, you really haven't seen that from him. But this year, he really stepped back into place, played at an all-star level. He's looking like old Francisco Lindor with the Indians, and it is so good to see. And I think when you have a player like that that's performing at such a high level, using with the data you just threw out there, right, getting so much back to ball, right, and you're just seeing the ball really well to have that hard hit rate. I mean, he's carrying the Mets right now. He is the
100%.
vibe. He is the cornerstone of this Mets vibe. And I'm telling you right now, Parker. I'm telling you right now. I'm gonna say it right here. You were excited about the Phillies. I was excited about the Padres. I'm throwing that all away. I want to see a Mets-Yankees World Series. Book it. I want to see it.
The Subway Series would be something to watch, man, especially because I think the Mets might win it.
They could.
With the trouble that the Royals have been giving the Yankees, even though that the records have, it has not been an easy series for the Yankees against these Royals. I think the Mets, if they come in hot, I think, oh my God, that's going to be such a good World Series to see. And talk about viewership numbers, my goodness.
Oh, gee, I'm already excited about it. It hasn't even happened yet. All right, folks, that's First to Home, covering the top stories in baseball. Today, Parker, we are focusing all on the postseason. I mean, we are in the thick of the postseason. We have a couple more weeks before this bad boy wraps up. Hopefully it's the Mets. We'll see. But we are at the end of the NLDS, or getting to the end of the NLDS. Like you said, the Mets went ahead and won that series 3-1. The Cleveland Guardians and Detroit Tigers are wrapping that series up on Saturday. And then Yankees are still leading 3-1 in the top of the 8th right now, with the ability to shut down Kansas City here shortly. And then what I'm excited about, tomorrow night, Padres Dodgers. They're at Dodger Stadium. Shohei, Tatis, it's going to be a show. This is the perfect way to end an NLDS against these two teams. Very excited about that.
Fernando Tatis Jr. has been tearing the cover off of the baseball. I am going to go ahead and pull up his Savant page because I don't know why I didn't before we got into this call. But genuinely, Fernando Tatis Jr. has been the guy for these Padres since the playoffs began. I genuinely, Shohei's production hasn't necessarily been everybody's favorite, like what everybody wanted from him.
Yeah.
Fernando Tatis Jr. has had it in spades. Guy is destroying the baseball, and this game itself is just something that I'm super, super looking forward to. So I just listed off all of the different batted ball data from Fernando Tatis Jr. or for Francisco Lindor. Here's Fernando Tatis Jr. 118 miles per hour.
Oh, come on.
94, 85, 108, 100, 111, 105, 105, 63, 102, 80, 104, 111, 99, and 86. Dude cannot stop mashing right now. And it's fun to watch, man.
It is. It's going to be a really exciting way to wrap up that series tomorrow night. But today, Parker, I want to focus on what makes really the MLB postseason, and I'm a little biased, but the MLB postseason really one of the best postseasons in all of sports. And there's so much to it, and especially in recent years, it has become increasingly electric. So I mean, in your eyes, Parker, we've seen a lot of postseason games. We're huge fans, obviously. We're definitely biased. But what makes, in your mind, the MLB postseason so special compared to what we see in other sports?
In my opinion, the MLB postseason has a few things going for it, which I'm going to sound, for those of you like who eventually will get to know me, or if you've gotten to know me, one of my least favorite postseasons is the NBA postseason. I think it goes on far too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the MLB postseason has a good format in terms of a 3-game series, a 5-game series, a 7-game series, a 7-game series. I think that doesn't take too long. It takes a little while, but it doesn't take too long. But one thing that I think it has going for it as a series format is the fact that you have entire days of suspense. When your team is down by a game or two or going into elimination game, when you're watching NFL football, your team is facing elimination for a grand total of like 6 in-game minutes before the season comes crashing down. When your team's down 3-2 in game 6 and you need to force game 7, you have an off day and the entire game day to stress about that. And there is very little that can compare to that level of stress and anxiety. And then if it works out for your team, the relief that comes from that. And I also think that this is a little bit kind of a reach for me, but this is one of my favorite parts about baseball as a whole. But I think the fact that we have Baseball Savant and like all of these different stat keeping metrics, all the different like super crunchy number stuff, the stuff that I really like looking into, the fact that I can pull up and see the batted ball velocity on every single swing that Fernando Tatis Jr. has taken in the postseason, I think for me is like, wow, this guy's in fuego. Like we gotta dive into this and see how hot he is. So I think that's a big part of it for me too.
You know, one thing I will say that it's kind of hard to describe, but you know it when you see it, is if you watch a regular season MLB game and you watch a postseason MLB game and you look at the intensity, the speed, the energy, it's almost like watching two different sports on any given day. I mean, MLB postseason games have this tit for tat, back and forth, high intensity atmosphere that makes it fun to watch, whether you're in the ballpark, whether you're on TV. It is an entirely different experience. And no matter which two teams are playing, I could literally sit there and watch every inning of every postseason game and be totally content.
100%. I think it's the sprint versus the marathon mentality. Like the playoffs is the sprint for baseball, because again, in baseball, you play a 7-game series in a total of like 10 days. In basketball, it's like you'll play a 7-game series over the course of 2 weeks. And I think that baseball does a really good job of like 162 games. Fans will tune in, fans will tune out. I myself even go through waves of watching and not watching my team throughout the MLB season. But when it comes to the playoffs, clear your schedule. Like I famously will tell the story probably a million more times during the course of the life of this podcast. I took all of the possible game days of the 2018 World Series, I took PTO so that I could sit and I could watch. At the time, I lived in Japan, so I could sit and I could watch at 8 o'clock in the morning, watch my team play in the World Series. And it's one of my favorite things ever. I just got to sit there and watch the games. And during the 2022 playoff run for the Red Sox, I watched every pitch of every game. So I think it's that extra gear that baseball fans get, and intensity that baseball fans get in the stadium. And like you said, these games, I don't know what happens, man, but these games are so back and forth in the postseason every year.
It's just it's really the best of the best. Like I know we talk about, a lot of fans love the World Baseball Classic. You have, the top players from all over the world playing, but I really put the postseason above the World Baseball Classic. I mean, this is an intense, high level, best of the best players competing on a national stage is incredible. Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned, Parker. You talked about just the mechanics of the postseason bracket and the series. Mm-hmm. This was a recent change, right? I mean, they expanded in the last couple years ago. They expanded the playoffs to 12 teams. They wanted to get more teams involved, more fan bases involved in the postseason, rightfully so. What have you made of it since that change? I mean, there's things to like. There's things maybe that have been a little weird. I mean, what do you make of it up to this point now that we've seen it for a few seasons?
So I think that I'll start with the negative and I'll work my way to the positive because the negative list is way shorter. I think that the first round bye for a team doesn't do that team justice, especially when you're dealing with a series format. Because there's a scenario where a team could finish the regular season and not play a baseball game for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And that is a long layoff for guys who have been playing every single day for 6 months. Excuse me. So I think that's really the only negative. But when we talk about positives, the expanded playoff bracket, as a fan of a team that's pretty mediocre going 81-81, I had hope up until the first week of September.
Yeah.
You know, like it makes the rest of the season hopeful because look at these Mets. The Mets are the perfect reason as to why this playoff system works. They start in the wild card series, incredible games against the Brewers. Then they go and roll the National League favorites in the NLDS. And like, anything can happen now. They could very well find themselves in the World Series. And when did the wild card era start? It was in the 90s, right?
Late 90s, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, the late 98, I think, like that. That wouldn't have happened. That could have never happened. The Mets would have had to win their division. And It's like, oh my God. Thank God this is what happens because the Mets are fucking fun to watch and I'm so glad I get to watch them in games that really matter.
100%. You know, I think there is an argument to be made, and I hear this a lot, where people will say, oh, well, you know, if the sprint is the postseason, then why don't you just shorten the regular season, expand the postseason, and do basically a March Madness deal? And I've heard this a lot more from fans, and I don't know that I love that. I think they've really found the sweet spot here with this bracket. Now, here's one thing I will say, and this is a nice little stat I think you'll find interesting. You go back to these wildcard series that we were watching last week, okay? The Mets won that series against the Brewers 2-1. The Padres swept the Braves in 2 games. Detroit swept Houston in 2 games. Kansas City swept the Orioles in 2 games. How many times, not including, since they've had this bracket, so 3 seasons, I believe it is, not including the 2020 shortened season, how many times has the team that won the first game of these wildcard series lose the series? How many times has one of these wildcard teams who've won the first game ended up losing the series?
We've had 3-game series for only a few years, right?
Oh, so I'm talking in this bracket. So as this bracket's existed for, I think, 3 seasons, if my facts are correct, take out the 2020 big goose egg.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Which is incredible to me. Like, this is, you have to, your back is up against the wall in these wildcard series.
Mm-hmm.
You need to win game 1. The proof's in the pudding. And so that to me is very exciting. I mean, it sucks when you're a team like the Astros, a team like the Orioles, where you bust your ass for 162 games. You actually have, 90, 93 wins. But, I mean, this is why we talk about sustaining success over 162 and getting hot at the right time, right? Your Red Sox, I often wonder if the postseason started in late July, early August, maybe they could have carried it for a week or 2 and found themselves in an ALCS. I mean, that it's all about vibes. It's all about momentum and how you're playing in the moment when it comes to the postseason.
There was a month and a half during this baseball season where the Red Sox were the best team in baseball by like 5 games.
Yes.
So you could argue that a team that ended up finishing the season a dead even 500 would have won the World Series if it just so happened to be during that hot streak. And like, now we're getting into a ton of speculation and I sound like a Red Sox homer, but I'm speaking to the nature of like, it is just, how's the clubhouse feeling right now, man? Because I'm telling you right now, the Tigers clubhouse feels like $1 million compared to what their expectations were in spring training. In spring training, the Tigers showed up to camp and they were like, hopefully Spencer Torkelson hits more than 25 home runs. Like, that was about it, man. Like, that was all they had. And now they're playing games that matter in the only month that matters. And
yes,
that's just a recipe for good baseball, man. That's so much fun.
It really is. Last thing I'll say about kind of what makes the the postseason special to me is we follow this sport 365 days a year. And
Yeah.
there are so many things in the calendar year that influence a team's decision to push all the chips in one year or tear it all down and do a rebuild. Then you look at what's happened this postseason. You look at teams like the Mets. You look at teams like the Tigers or the Royals, and you wonder how much their plans have changed because they've made it in the postseason. That glimmer of hope of like a team like the Mets, where if you ask David Stearns, when he took the job a year ago, he would have said, maybe this would have taken us 2 years. But look at that. Have we now accelerated our timeline because we actually made it this far in the postseason? Do I add a couple more pieces and keep competing for the next 2 years if I just accelerated this thing? Like, everything changes. Everything changes.
I'm a guy that watches sports for storylines. Like, I love a good storyline. And, like, for example, I truly got into college football in the last 2 years. And it's not even for the fact that, my team is Virginia Tech. We're not even that freaking good. But the storyline surrounding college football is what really got me into it. Rivalries, things like that. To wrap it back into baseball, Pete Alonso is a free agent at the end of this season.
Yes,
and
sir.
with the October that he's having, how can you not re-sign that man to be a Met?
I know.
The fans would burn the stadium down, man.
I know.
So that's what I love about this game. That's what I love about the fact that we don't just play 4 playoff games and call it a Super Bowl. No, we play. You have to win 11 games. You have to win a significant amount of games to get your team into the world, to win the World Series, and I think that that's super special.
It really is. It really is. Now, Parker, you and I have seen a lot of postseason games. I mean, when you think back to some of your kind of favorite postseason memories, I mean, tell me about them. What do you remember? Have you attended any postseason games? I mean, what sticks out in your mind as being the most memorable postseason memories for you?
So, I've never attended a postseason game, but my dad went to in 2018. He went to like an NLDS or ALDS game, an ALCS game, and a World Series game. He flew back and forth to Boston like 3 times. So he had a good time out there. But my favorite postseason moments, man, I got 2 of them. I cheated. We were supposed to pick 1 to pick 2. Number 1 is like my favorite Red Sox I won't say of all time. One of my favorite Red Sox ever, top 3, top 2, is Dustin Pedroia. And in his rookie season in 2007, the man led off the World Series for the Red Sox with a home run off of Jeff Francis. Now, Jeff Francis, weird name to remember, right? Well, it's because the funniest thing ever happened, because when the series shifted to Colorado 2 games later, Dustin Pedroia was turned away at the gates at the players' entrance because they did not believe that he was a player because he was so young and short. And he was like, I'm Dustin fucking Pedroia. Why don't you go ask Jeff Francis who I am? He knows who the fuck I am. And that's like,
that
hilarious. Lives in Red
Sox
Sox lore for like all eternity. But yeah, I love that moment, the 2007 World Series, Pedroia hitting the home run. And then the other easy one for me, Shane Victorino, during his short time with the Red Sox, during the 2013 ALCS against the Tigers, in Game 6, in the bottom of the 7th with Max Scherzer on the mound. Max Scherzer on the mound in the bottom of the 7th, by the way, with only 97 pitches. So he's still ready to go for like 40 more pitches. Tigers are up 2-1, and Shane Victorino hits a grand slam over the Green Monster. And I remember my dad had like cracked his rib or something like that in the weeks leading up to the game, so he was still sore. And when he hit that home run, I forgot, and I ran over and squeezed my dad in the biggest hug that I've ever given him. And his rib didn't get better for a lot longer time after that because I definitely hurt him. But we were so crazy. I mean, and that 2013 postseason had so many great moments as a Red Sox fan. I mean, the David Ortiz Grand Slam and stuff like that. So, yeah, those are the 2. Those are the 2, and they're like always up there for me.
Man, Really good, really good. I love Shane Victorino, Phillies legend, man. That I love that guy. Oh,
Yeah. So what are your favorite postseason moments? Because you got a few to choose from there.
I do have a few to choose from. Just by nature of being just a Chicago guy, and full transparency, folks, I wasn't always a White Sox fan. Believe it or not, I was actually a Cubs fan at one point, and I was a Cubs fan almost essentially my whole life through 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series. I will always remember where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. It was very emotional for me. You know, being a Cubs fan was something that I just grew up in the family being a Cubs fan, and I didn't really just kind of switch my fandom until 2019. And that was a really special moment for me. That solidified, I think, my love for baseball to be part of that journey. And I always remember it because it was really special for me at the time, even if I'm a Sox fan now. But as far as kind of games I've been to, really fortunate to get to a few postseason games. My first one was in 2007. It was Game 3 of the NLDS, Diamondbacks and Cubs at Wrigley, and then that ended up, the Diamondbacks swept the Cubs in that series. That was the team that was managed by Fiery Lou Piniella, if you remember those days. But last game of that series, they got swept by the D-backs.
Sorry, the Diamondbacks got their dicks kicked in by the Rockies.
They did. They really did. Yeah. And then they said hi to Dustin Pedroia after that. So, but my favorite memory, and this is probably my favorite baseball memory, is games. What would it have been? It would have been games 3 and 4 in 2021. White Sox v Astros in the ALDS. I was a season ticket holder, so I got the ability to go to both of those games at Guarantee Rate Field. And first off, for the White Sox to even be in the playoffs, huge deal. I mean, let's just be honest. But I can't even explain it to you. That Game 3 was the first playoff game in Guaranteed Rate Field for a very, very long time. And I'll tell you what.
2005, right? No.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that long. But here's what I will say is, I remember it being the top of the fourth of that game, tied 6-6, and of all people, White Sox legend Leury Garcia hits a 3-run home run over the center field fence. And Parker, I'll tell you what.
You guys must have torn the place down.
It was a riot. I have never been in a place with so much energy. I could feel the energy literally moving the cement under my feet. It was the coolest experience. If I say this to anybody, I tell people, please, one time in your life, even if you're not a fan of the team, get to a ballpark during a postseason game, especially now. It is something you will never experience before. Best night of my life. It was amazing.
My one of the stories my dad told me when he went to the 2018 playoff game, don't remember which one it was, but the Red Sox were playing in the playoffs. I think it was the ALCS game against the Astros. And my dad stops it for a beer at Cask and Flagon before the game, and he goes and uses the bathroom. And now Cask and Flagon, if you've ever seen the top-down aerial shots of Fenway Park after or before playoff games, it is the ballpark on the corner of the street that's always just flooded with people. Like, it's just, there's more people than there is bar. And he's in there and he's using the bathroom, and of course every stall is taken, the place is packed, and he's using the urinal, and while he's using the urinal, someone in the urinal next to him starts a "fuck the Yankees" chant in a game that did not include the Yankees. But the entire bar erupts in a "fuck the Yankees" chant because the Astros fans that were there also felt the same way.
Oh,
it was,
jeez.
From what he told me, it must have been pretty awesome. I got to get to a playoff game, but the Red Sox got to make the playoffs for me to do that. So we'll see.
Yeah, boy, one foot in front of the other here. All right, no, that's perfect. Like I said, folks, there's something magical about the postseason. You got to get there. One of the things I've told myself is, and I should have freaking done it this time when the Mets were in Milwaukee for the wild card series. I should have went up there and went to a game. And I'm telling myself one day I'm going to go to a postseason game that doesn't include the White Sox because that's more likely. And I'm going to attend a postseason game again. Parker, we're not done yet with the postseason. There's a lot going on. The tables have turned. The Twins are not the Twins, excuse me. We were just talking about the Twins. The Tigers look like they could actually get to the ALCS. The Mets shut down the Phillies. The Dodgers are looking not like the Dodgers. What are you looking forward to as we wrap up the division series? What are you looking to see over the next week?
Particularly, what I'm looking forward to is, and this I'm gonna lean this toward the Dodgers and the Padres, but looking at the environments that these teams are playing games in, I think it matters so much. If the Royals were to win this game, which it's the bottom of the ninth and 1 out, and the Royals are still down by 2, they got to go to New York, man, and they got to go play Game 5 in New York. So it matters, right? Like, it's a big deal. And when we talk about the Padres going into Los Angeles and Chavez Ravine and playing a playoff game in front of a fan base that knows how to play off baseball, right? Like, they know how to show up for their team, and a fan base that has had so much to be excited about in recent years. You know the support's going to be there. You know the place is going to be absolutely incredible on that night. Going into that game, right now, the Dodgers are favored by a 1.5. And I think that 1.5 literally comes from the environment, because the LA Dodgers have not announced a starter, but we know that Yu Darvish is on the mound for the Padres.
Okay. All right.
Seems like the Padres should be favored, right?
You would think. I call it the Shohei Ohtani effect, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, let's talk about this for a second, because I struggle with what the Dodgers are doing right now. Dave Roberts, I believe he said this yesterday. He said essentially he's deciding between 3 things for Game 5. He's deciding between Yamamoto, he's deciding between him, Flaherty, or a freaking bullpen game. Now, the only reason he's deciding, thinking about a bullpen game is because the bullpen shut down the Padres in the last game. So, first off, absolutely hate the thought of a bullpen game in the postseason. Don't even get me started on that freaking rant. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have faith in the way the Dodgers are playing ball. I have concerns about Mookie Betts. Literally just got hot the last game. Freddie Freeman is kind of a game time decision right now.
I was gonna say, he might be dead.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani he's had his moments, but he's looking pretty vulnerable. Like, I don't know. That 1.5, I think it's what you said. I think it's purely because of the fact they're in Dodger Stadium, because I'm not buying anything else the Dodgers are selling right now.
No, I'm 100% with you. I think all the momentum is in San Diego right now. And those fans are going to travel. It's a 3-hour drive.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be there. And you're going to see plenty of that brown and gold in those stadium seats. And when you got a guy like Fernando Tatis going, when you got a World Series seasoned Yu Darvish starting a game, I don't care who they are. Love Dylan Cease. Love Michael King. Yu Darvish is the guy I want on the mound in Game 5.
Yes.
Cannot be phased. Could not possibly care that it's Game 5 of the ALDS. He's going to go through the same pregame ritual he's gone through 30-plus other times this season. He's going to post, and because it's the playoffs, he's probably going to pitch like 65 pitches, make it to the third inning, and get pulled. But Yu Darvish is the guy that you want on the mound, and this is why we play series. Because when we had the wild card game, one singular game, part of the problem with that was that your one starting pitcher has their only bad day of the season, and all of a sudden the entire 162-game season comes crashing down. We have played 4 games, and we're about to play the 5th, and now it's one game. Now you throw your best on the mound. Now you see what you can get away with. And I think, like I said, I think you hit it on the head. I think all that momentum's with the San Diego Padres right now.
We are going to see. I'm definitely following the Padres-Dodgers game. That's what I'm most excited for tomorrow night. More than anything in the next week, I'm going to assume we're at the bottom of the 9th, 1 out still in Kansas City. It looks like it's going to be Yankees. Yankees and what happened?
We just went final. Yankees
we went
3,
final. Okay.
Royals 1. Yankees move on to the ALCS.
Yankees are going to the ALCS. They'll play either the Guardians or the Tigers. I'm really thinking I'm hoping it's the Tigers because, we love a good narrative here, Parker. So I I don't know. I gotta know if the Yankees are gonna take this all the way or fall. Like I said, I'm banking on the Yankees Mets World Series next week. I'm sure we'll get into that a little more as we get closer and into the AL and NLCS. But I want to play a little game with you, Parker. And I did not prep you for this, and I'm very excited to play this with you. I'm calling this postseason he or him. So you have to pick one of these guys. You can only pick one, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to give you hitters, and I'm going to give you pitchers. This is going to be the hardest decision you have to make in your life.
Oh, man.
We're going to start with hitters. Which hitter would you rather have in your postseason lineup? And you can only pick one. Shohei Ohtani or Bobby Witt Jr.?
That's such a hard decision to make this postseason.
I know.
Oh, man. I was going to get into this later, but Bobby Witt was 1 for 15 heading into the 4th inning of Game 4 of the ALDS against the Yankees.
He was. True.
Shohei Ohtani, however, hit a home run in his second plate appearance of the postseason. I think at the end of the day, I love me some Bobby Witt Jr. I do, but I think when you talk about a guy who brings the ability to get every single person in the stadium on their feet when he steps up to the plate, I think it's Shohei Ohtani for me.
Okay. That's fair. I personally love the all-around skill of Bobby Witt Jr. And I'm going to be
Pablo
honest,
Sanchez, dude.
He's absolutely Pablo Sanchez. That is a good little plug for Backyard Baseball, and Backyard Baseball is back. We are very excited about it.
Backyard Baseball 97's back, by the way.
We should have spent some time talking about that. Shame on us for not even bringing that up until like 45 minutes into this show. But Backyard Baseball is back. Anyway, Shohei, I'm not taking any credit away from him. Amazing athlete, probably going to go down as the best baseball player of all time. I get that. This postseason, he's showing his warts like I've never seen him before. Not the plate presence doesn't seem to be there. He's swinging at pitches outside the zone. He just doesn't look like he is Shohei. So if we're talking this postseason, even though Bobby went, like I said, 1 for 15 to start the series, I want his speed. I want his defense. I want all the other intangibles. I got to go Bobby.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think... And, not to say anything against Shohei Ohtani, I have no idea what he's like in the clubhouse, but I would think that speaking English probably does, first language English probably does Bobby Witt a couple favors in terms of clubhouse presence. So I think, you probably got something there. That's a good pick.
Pitchers, let's move on to what pitcher you would have on your postseason roster if you could only pick one. And I'm giving you the choice between Garrett Cole or Tarek Skubal.
Tarek Skubal.
Yeah.
I think Garrett Cole has shown. Now, he pitched a great game against the Royals today.
Sure did.
I think that outside of the one, was it 20? Which World Series did the Astros lose? Was it 2019? Which one was the Braves? Whatever one he started the last game of the World Series and then did the Boris Korpat.
I think that was 2019.
Yeah. He had that one run in the postseason where he was nails. I mean, he was very good. But since then, and no shade, Yankees fans, but hasn't been a lot of playoff experience for him since he joined the Yankees. I always go back to him getting shelled in the Red Sox wild card game. He's had his, like you said earlier, he's had his warts. He's had his moments in the postseason where he wasn't as effective. Tarek Skubal has been an electric factory from the moment he stepped on the baseball field at the beginning of the season, and it hasn't led up to the postseason. He's arguably better in the postseason. So, as of this very day, it's Tarek Skubal, and he's a lefty. Come on, he's a lefty. It brings so much.
True, 100%. All right, a couple more because these are fun. I want to hear what you think. Let's go. Let's go closers. Here we go, baby. Okay. Closers. You have to have only one. Emmanuel Clase, Edwin Diaz. Go.
Clase.
Okay, I figured you were going to pick Clase.
I think Clase is the top of closers right now in baseball in general. And he has shown up. He showed up today. and pitched 2 innings for the Guardians. I'm never going to stop doing that. He pitched 2 innings for the Guardians at the end of this game right here against the Tigers, and he's just been nails, and he is the utmost professional. He just shows up, he throws gas, he gets off the mound. It's awesome to watch.
Whew. That's a good one. Last one. It's Game 7 of the World Series. You have one guy leading the charge, one manager. You have to have him in the dugout, guiding your team. You got to pick between 2 guys that have been here a lot, A.J. Hinch and Dave Roberts.
I knew you were going to pick those 2.
Who do you got?
I think it's... I want to say Dave Roberts, but he's lost so many World Series.
Man. Can't deny that. Ooh.
I think I'm going to go with A.J. Hinch. And I love Dave Roberts, Red Sox fan, 2004, stolen base.
Yeah.
It's the thing that started the thing, the comeback, the 4 days in October. I think it's A.J. Hinch because when you look at the guy, the way that the guy manages the clubhouse, and you look at the way that his players look up to him, when you look at how every single player that's ever played with him has talked about him, and then the quotes, like when he said that the plan for the playoffs was Tarek Skubal and then pitching chaos, I have so much respect for a guy like that who's willing to be like, everybody knows I'm figuring this out and the seat of my pants. I'm going to be upfront about it.
100%.
Yeah, and like how much faith does that put into your bullpen? Your bullpen's like, this is our series. This is our postseason. We are winning this. And I love it. It's worked so far. At least they're not eliminated so far. So I think I'm going to go with A.J. Hinch.
Well, you can't go wrong with either of those guys. We will be here talking postseason for at least a few more weeks. We have a lot more postseason to talk about. Shit's going to get real. Who knows what's going to happen? We thought the Phillies were going to win it all, and here we are eating some crow. So, hey, you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before we get out of here, I do want to mention, I was going to just mention Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge. Bobby Witt starting 1 for 15 to the 4th inning in Game 4 of the ALDS versus the Yankees. That series has since expired. I don't think Bobby Witt got another hit. Aaron Judge started that game 1 for 12. So Aaron Judge has not shown up in this postseason. I think if the Yankees do make a run, it has to include Aaron Judge getting hot.
Yes.
Juan Soto, I looked it up, has an 800-plus OPS throughout the postseason. He's hitting 333, or at least at the time that I looked it up on Baseball. Or going into Game 4, he was hitting 333, 4 for 12. So he's looking good. He's drawing his walks just like he always does. So you got to have Aaron Judge swinging that bat.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Parker. There's always what I call kind of World Series rando heroes. You have Rajay
100%.
Davis. Rajay Davis, the 2016 World Indians. You have Steve Pearce, your Red Sox, right? Like, I mean, just total randos. Like,
yeah, Ben Rice is going to hit 4 home runs in the World Series.
That's right.
Never going to be able to forget it.
100%. And I cannot wait to see that rando World Series MVP this year because you know it's more likely to happen than not.
Yep. Absolutely. I love this game, man.
That'll do it here for us this week on the Late Night Baseball Show. Don't forget, folks, subscribe to the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please, please, please leave a review. Good reviews, please. Spread the word and invite others to join us here at the Late Night Baseball Show. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back next week. See ya.